My name is Emmanuel Daniel Diouf. I am a Gambian. I am a lawyer by profession. I am, as you know, the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. It was set up by an act of the National Assembly in 2017. It got the presidential assent in January of 2018, and it was gazetted. And the 5 commissioners were sworn into office on 14th of February in 2019, these 5 commissioners, in order for them to carry out the mandate of the National Human Rights Commission. This was the first time that we had a National Human Rights Commission in the Gambia. So this government, when it came to power as part of its democratization process and the transitional justice process, set up the National Human Rights Commission. So the 5 commissioners, as I said, were sworn into office in 2019 to carry out and implement the mandate to promote and protect human rights and bring back a culture of human rights back into the country. And in so doing, the Commission has a broad mandate under the Paris, what we call the Paris Principles. These are rules that have been approved by the United Nations. And the National Human Rights Commission has the broad mandate of investigating human rights, monitoring, receiving complaints. They have advisory role to the government. They can sit as a quasi-judicial, as a tribunal to hear complaints. They also have, as I said, advisory role. They do research on legislation, on the laws, in order to advise the government so that the laws that we have in this country will be compatible with the human rights, not only the Chapter 4 of our Constitution, but also the UN treaties and conventions and regional conventions that the Gambia has ratified. Gambia was ranked high, especially in the area of human rights, from especially the period where Republican 1970 to 1994. We had high ratings, high rankings, and that was why whenever you talk about the Gambia, people talk about, it was a country where rule of law, democracy, while others had even one-party state, they were imprisoning opposition parties. The Gambia had, they had their free and fair election, among other things. Free press was there. It was never perfect, so we were ranked high. Gradually, from 1994, during the period of the junta, if you remember, when Gambia was suspended, there were many areas were suspended because of the coup d'etat, and then we were accepted gradually after the elections that we had. Was it 1997 or 96, which ushered in the new constitution? But of course, gradually, well, you know what happened. Our ranking went down the drains, and the head of state didn't mince his words about what he thought was democracy and human rights. Extrajudicial killings, unlawful detention was the order of the day. We were really, if I may use the word, the black sheep of the community when it comes to human rights. We were really the bottomless pit. But since 2017, with the advent of the new government, and all the transitional justice processes that came in, and some of the laws that some are still in bill forms, like the freedom of press. We have a bill on public order, public assembly. We have, although there has been issues relating to unlawful arrest and detention, but the Gambia has there has been a marked improvement setting up a National Human Rights Commission has been one of the flagship of this government, really. The fact that they accepted to come up with an act based on the Paris Principle to have an independent National Human Rights Commission whose members are not selected by the president. The selection process is through a process of civil society organization and National Assembly, who just send these names to the president. The fact that the commissioners selected are from varied and wide background, and all these things, the setting up of the TRRC, a CRC, security sector reform, although it's a lot of people, and we believe that they've been really struggling, but all these things have actually shown that there has been marked improvement in the area of democracy and human rights. At the pinnacle of the commission, you have the 5 commissioners. Their mandate is for a term. All the commissioners have a 4-year term, renewable by another 4 years. The chairperson has a term of 5 years renewable. So you have the 5 commissioners, but the act says that at least 2 commissioners must be female. On top of, down the commission level, then you have the secretariat, which is headed by the executive secretary. The executive secretary actually has also a term of 5 years renewable. And then the other staff, they are staff, permanent staff of the commission. And we have different directorates. We have the Directorate of Communication. We have the Directorate of Human Resource. We have the Directorate of Legal and Investigation. And we have a Directorate of Programs and Resource Mobilization. As a new institution, you will always face challenges. So setting up a commission was the biggest headache. We were sworn into office without an office. So it was just 5 commissioners, went there, nice pictures, and told to go and do work. And it usually used to pain me when I hear people say, well, they were sworn in last week. What have they done? We didn't even have an office. Not even so. We use our own computers. But thank God we also had as I said, under the Paris Principle, the UN are supposed to help us. So we really have to thank the UN. In the early days, they did really help us. But the government quickly also provided funding for us to start setting up. So these were the biggest challenges. Having a secretariat, because just having the commission, the secretariat is our nerve center. So one of the biggest challenges was to set up. We had to recruit staff. As I speak to you, we have lawyers and investigators. We took lawyers, we stole some, if I can use the word, from the Ministry of Justice. We took some from even TRRC. We took some seasoned investigators from the police. They are now all full-time staff. That is why we're able to investigate, monitor. So setting up was a challenge. But another challenge is perhaps, and it happened to us, I think we all realize after our annual report, is the awareness raising. We need to engage Gambians so that they can fully understand what human rights is all about. Because a lot of people came, especially after our report, and mixed things up. What are these human rights? These are these fundamental rights that our constitution gives to Gambians. These are the rights that our country has gone and ratified. We are not making them up. But we realize that, listen, a lot of, especially Jammeh had given it a Eurocentric. To him, it was a propaganda ploy to say, don't mind them. Human rights is all about the West. It's all about homosexual. Whereas he was violating the rights of people. He used human rights as Eurocentric. And up to now, when you go to places, they love human rights. Until it dawned on them that, if your rights are violated by the police, if you have been unlawfully dismissed, if you don't have right to health, if you don't have right to education, these are rights that we're fighting for so that you will have. So this is a challenge. Awareness raising is a challenge, and we have to work hard on it. But COVID-19 also is an ongoing challenge. We had an elaborate, comprehensive work plan for 2020, because we had said 2019 we were just set up. 2020 was the period in which we were just going to roll out our activities. Community outreach. Unfortunately, COVID-19, so we could not roll out all our activities. especially our outreach activities. So I would say that COVID-19 has been a major problem for the Commission in order to realize its full mandate. Again, as we knew, we need to have regional offices because it's part of our mandate. In that respect, we have to have more funding so that we can, in the long run, we will want to have an office in each of the regions. But we may start by having maybe one covering 2 regions and then another one. So if you ask us, these were the challenges that we faced setting up an office, getting people to understand. But we discovered that there is a lot of work. Our mandate is so broad. The challenges that we also face is the amount of work that needs to be done, especially after 22 years. And the thing is, some people want us to solve the problem now. It can't happen. It cannot. We do not have the human resource. We don't have the financial capacity to spread out to do everything. But we need to prioritize our work and sequence it. And this is what we've been trying to do. We had a backlog of something like 20 years of reporting. When a nation ratifies a treaty, convention, there is a requirement that they report to the committee of the treaty. Initially, in most cases, it's for every 2 years. In some treaty bodies, it says every 4 years. And then in that report, you're supposed to tell the treaty bodies what you have done to realize the provisions of those treaties. Others even have what they call a communique, where individuals can actually petition that committee. So the Gambia, conveniently, for most of the conventions and treaties that we ratified, refused to, either refused or unable to. But since 2017, I must say in 2019, the African Commission was very happy that I think it was the 64th ordinary session that the Gambia, after 20 years, had not actually submitted, and the Gambia submitted a full report on their human rights obligations by stating what they have done, and also today we have started reporting on some of the backlogs. I must commend the government that they have set up what is called today an interministerial task force to look at all the reporting requirements that we need to do so that we'll report on time. But having said that, we still have a backlog on, I think, the disability, the Convention on Disability, persons with disability, the one on torture, we're supposed to report. So we still have a backlog. We still have a backlog, and one of the things that we are doing as a National Human Rights Commission, we are doing a calendar, so that our legal officers are doing a calendar where we actually remind the government that, hey, you have a reporting obligation. You need to report. Human rights are the rights that people have because they are human. They are inherent in us. You have, for example, the right to life. You're a human being. Nobody has the right to arbitrarily take life from you. And by the fact that you're a human being, you have certain freedoms that are given, that you inherently have. I mentioned the right to life, the right not to be arbitrarily arrested, the right not to be tortured. Because you're a human being, you live in society, you have a right to education, you have the right to health, you have the right to a clean environment, you have the right to socio-economic rights. These are also rights. So these are basic necessities that we as human beings must have in order to live as human beings. And these are, as we say, these are God-given rights. And because they are God-given rights, they're inherent, they're interdependent, they're indivisible. These are rights that the government must protect, they must respect, and they must fulfill. But I would not say human rights are privileges. It's not. Because once you say that they are privileges, then privileges can be removed. They are not privileges. What they are is they are God-given rights, but in exercising those rights, you have to also take into consideration the rights of others, because you don't live as an island. Even in your neighborhood, it's just because it's your house, Yes, you have boundaries, but that doesn't give you the right to cause noise, endless noise at 2 a.m. and your neighbors cannot sleep. You're infringing the rights of others. Our chapter 4 of our constitution, the 1997 one that we talk about, has a whole chapter on fundamental rights and freedom. And these are the rights that the National Human Rights Commission has been mandated to implement to make sure that they are fully realized.
You have to pay. Look at my sleep. I think I am cheated.
Yes, you are cheated. This is not what they stated on your employment letter.
It's okay. Just give it to me. I think Fatu must explain this better.
Go and see her.
Let me go to our office now. I think I am cheated. Look at my slip. I did not buy PE tax. Why did you deduct it from my salary?
No, Lamin. PE is an acronym which means pay as you earn. Employment income tax is any profit or gain arising from employment. It includes salaries, wages, bonuses, leave pay, overtime, allowances, and commissions. The employer is charged with the responsibility of deducting the tax at source and remit to GRA monthly before or on the 15th of the following month.
Really?
Yes. Any employee who earns incomes from $2,000 and above per month arising from employment in the Gambia is subjected to employment income tax.
But what if my employer deducts my salary and does not pay to GRA?
Then it means your employer is cheating on you and the government. Anytime if detected, your employer will be charged to pay the full amount and you cannot get any document from GRA indicating your tax compliance.
Thank you very much for making me understand. I think from now on, I will be finding out with you to know whether my taxes deducted from the salary are paid to GRA or not. And I will urge every employee to do the same. Thank you very much.
This information is from the Gambia Revenue Authority. For more detailed information about your pay income tax obligations, please visit any of the nearest GRA offices. The Gambia Revenue Authority, collecting revenue for national development.
GRA, you are more dollar for more fair tax.
We have started the individual complaint procedure. And we did that in September because we had just moved in. We didn't even have a secretariat. We were squatting at the UN office. One of the first things we did, awareness raising, which is important, or capacity building for rule of law enforcement officers, which is also, and CSO, which is also important. In most countries, it does take time for National Human Rights Commission to start what they call the individual complaints mechanism. But what we did, as soon as we were set up, and as soon as we set up our legal and investigation department, was to kickstart what we call the complaints mechanism system. So today, as I speak to you, anybody who believes that their rights have been violated can come to our secretariat here and lodge a complaint. When they come, we have a form. And there will be an investigator, a legal officer who will sit with you and take your complaint. And this will be documented. And then when it's documented, it's a detailed form, but we try to make it simple and not cumbersome. And then there will be an analysis to see whether actually this person's complaint falls under the jurisdiction of the National Human Rights Commission. But not only that, one could also, we try to make it simple so that even through the internet, you can actually send us your complaint through email. You can access the form through the internet because sometimes people will not want to come here. And we even encourage that, especially with COVID-19, so that people can have access to us. So you can lodge a complaint, but the complaint has to be that your human rights has been violated. So we not only do we receive complaints, but we also, on our own volition, we investigate. But coming back to receiving complaints, we also receive complaints on issues relating to labor matters. But what we also do sometimes, if the matter is before, for example, is maladministration, before the office of the ombudsman, sometimes we refer you to the right institution, to labor, to the office of the ombudsman. So that's why I said we do a comprehensive analysis of your complaint. But also we have received complaints relating to discrimination, caste system, which, as you know, we have been investigating in the Upper River region of the country. We have also received complaints on economic social rights, environment, pollution in the Combo areas, and the mining, sand mining, which has been affecting the livelihood of people in these areas. We have received complaints on those areas. So the complaints that we receive are varied. They are civil, they are political, they are economic, social, cultural rights. Since we also are advisory to the government, we tell the government when they're going wrong. Sometimes we do that in private because we need to do that. Sometimes we have to come out openly. So we are here for everybody, because we have been mandated to bring back a culture of rule of law back into the country. Our jurisdiction does have limitation. And what are the limitations? For example, we don't look into human rights violation that took place between 1994 and up to January 2018. January 2018. That is before the act came into effect. And there is a reason for that. And the reason is because the TRRC is looking into those human rights violations. But of course, if those human rights violations are continuing, they didn't stop, then we can look into it. So we have, in terms of jurisdictions, we're limited to that. But also, if a particular matter, although it's a human rights violation, is already in the courts, we do not look, what they call forum shopping. We don't, because we're not a court of law. So if it's going through the court process, it will go through a court process. So we don't look at it. If, for example, it's a matter where the president had exercised what we call the prerogative of mercy. The president has that prerogative where he actually pardons somebody. Then we also don't look into those violations. But in a nutshell, our mandate is very broad, and it's not only, we don't only look at violations that are allegedly committed by the government or government, but even by private institution, by public institution, so even if it is a public enterprise that is probably causing pollution in a particular environment, we have been mandated to actually look at that complaint. So we receive these complaints. Sometimes people say, is this your mandate? Yes, our mandate is very broad. Sometimes they said, well, this should be your mandate, and it's not our mandate. So we should be there explaining to people what our mandate is. There are cases which are also human rights violation, but at the same time, they're criminal. And rape is a classic case. And we have actually had complaints, allegations of that. What we do is, this matter is referred to the police. In fact, we had 2 instances where a rape case was reported. And quickly what we did, in fact, the matter was also reported to the police, but I think the victim or families of the victims felt that the due diligence was not taken to prosecute that case. So what we do in such instances is, not only do we follow up, we refer, we also contact the police, and we have an interest in the case, and we monitor the outcome of these cases. Criminal cases must be investigated by the police and must be prosecuted. That's why we have also the Minister of Justice. So you have those cases. But as I said, that notwithstanding, whatever help is needed, we will try and refer the person for assistance. You have the Female Lawyers Association, and this is a good point that you've also mentioned. But just recently, we have been talking with UNTJ, that is the Transitional Justice Project Office, to even come up with policies relating to sexual violence, sexual harassment, because there are things that needs to be done. Victims need to be supported, psychosocial support of victims. In cases of, for example, violence, domestic, do we have shelters for women who have been abused? So the work I would always say human rights work is work in progress. But yes, you're right. Criminal matters, we should be reported to the police, and the position that we take is we actually, and there are cases where we actually call and say, listen, we believe that you need to take this thing seriously. Not only did we tell the police, we also informed the Minister of Justice that we were concerned about 1 or 2 cases. So that is what we do in those instances. We are an institution that has been given the powers under the Act to go and inspect all detention centers, including prisons. So in December of last year, we embarked on a fact-finding, investigation and monitoring of detention facilities. So we visited the 3 prisons that we have in the Gambia, that is Mile 2 Central Prisons, the Joshuan prisons, and then the Janjambure prisons, and also some police stations. And if you read our report, we have highlighted what we found out. The conditions are deplorable. Although we have also noticed some improvement relating to certain cells which are now no longer used, which were used before. The prisoners that we spoke to that were there, that were imprisoned before 2017, told us that there has been marked improvement in the way they are currently treated, and also in the way even the quality of the food that is given to them. But that notwithstanding, there's still need for improvement. There is need to improve the facilities, but not only, even the way the quarters of the prison warders. And I really believe that they are even demoralized. We visited their offices and their living quarters, and there's need for resources to be given to the prisons. I think the Interior Minister should fight in their budget to have a better budget for the prisons. And we have recommended for the congesting of those prisons and even building of new prisons. Let us do some renovations for now, but also let us rebuild. Let us have a proper building, because even where it is situated near the swamps is not a proper place to have a prison. So we have engaged the government, and just recently we even had meetings with the Minister of Justice, and we have realized that police cells themselves are really also poorly constructed, poor ventilation, and especially in most of the cells, they do not have cells for women detainees or juveniles. We were also concerned about the sanitary facilities, toilets in these places. And all these things need to be improved. And we're engaging the authorities. As I said, it's work in progress. But I have seen that they have started doing work in some of these detention facilities. People must understand, when we talk about prisoners' rights, we are not saying free prisoners, or they should have a luxurious accommodation at the prison. That's not the point. There are minimum standards in which you keep even people who have committed the most heinous crimes. So this is what we're talking about. And these are there. Those minimum standards, we have them. These are recognized minimum standards internationally. With the advent of the pandemic, the COVID-19, the National Human Rights Commission has been very worried, because we've done studies and we've seen that in certain countries like Brazil and Uganda, what has happened is that the pandemic decimated the prison, because people are kept together in overcrowded conditions. And we wrote to the Minister of Justice requesting that the President should exercise the prerogative of mercy for prisoners that have almost finished their terms, prisoners that are there but are non-violent, or prisoners that have been convicted of offenses that are not of a sexual nature, like rape. We said that perhaps they should review and free them so that they can ease the congestion. And we're happy to report that over 120 prisoners, where 25 prisoners were actually released because of our interventions. And the good thing also is, for some of these institutions which requires report, for example, the Human Rights Council, where the Gambia was reviewed in Geneva recently, they also ask institutions like us to do what is called a shadow reporting. So we do an independent report So the government can say that, yes, we have 20 hospitals for child maternal. We do our own independent investigation. Oh, nobody is arrested now in the Gambia. We come back and say, no, in 2019, this is what happened. I'm not saying that's what the government is doing, but as a watchdog, we also do send in our shadow reports. The Gambia has improved. It's like it's more respecting its treaty obligations. But much needs to be done, and they need to be pushed so that they can report on all their treaty obligations. If you do not respect human rights, which, as I said, is the cornerstone for democracy, respect for rule of law and due process, then you have a chaotic society, which may lead into wars. So it's not things that we're making up, but that is why the UN has encouraged countries all over the world to have a national human rights institution, which will be independent watchdog body, but it should be independent, and the state should not interfere with the independence of a National Human Rights Commission. The way National Human Rights Commissions are funded is prescribed by the Paris Principle, which governs all national human rights institutions throughout the world. And it says that the government must fund. There is a funding that the government must fund. So our core funding comes from the government. Having said that, our act is very clear that the National Human Rights Commission can raise its own funds. So we can do our own fundraising. But also, as you say, who is funding us currently? We have funding from the government, which comes to some kind of subvention, which hopefully will change very soon. It will come from the consolidated fund, as we are trying to become a budget entity by next year. But also, we have a lot of funding from Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, because by the Paris Principles also, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is supposed to assist Human Rights Commission by providing technical capacity advisory support. So a lot of our activities are also funded by the UN. The UNTJ office, for example, even this building that we're in, although the government is mandated to provide us with a permanent headquarters, but the first rent was provided by the UN, through the Office of the High Commissioner, Peace Building. So we have funding from myriad of channels, but also we can access everywhere that the government gets funds. We can even get funds, whether it's the, it could be the EU, although we don't have any funding from them, but we can get funds from anywhere.
Hold on, yeah. Kaya dafa mel ni massage ni.
Waaw because li nekk sa appointment letter bi ak li ma gis fii dafa ute.
Li foog Fatou leeralal ma ko bu baax.
Moom rek moo la ko mën a leeralal.
Seetaan yéen foo naa da ngeen massage parce que man dinuma benn pays tax waaye fu mu nekk nii ñu ngi dog suma salaire bi rek.
déedéet Lamin pay tax mooy pay as you earn naama boo xam ne la ni sa koom-koom du ñëwee noonu ngay fayee lu mel ni li ngay fayee ko weer bu dee baate liñ laa jox soo demut noppaleku si at bi wala bonus allowances commission wala liñ laa jox si sa biir liggéeykaay bi bunti liggéeykaay bi nag ñoo war a jël sarta yooyu ñu dog si koom-koom yi ma la wax nii fay ko jiyaar yi weer bu nekka wala balaa beneen weer bi di am fukki fan ak juróom.
su fekkee ne compagnie bi dañ toog suma xaalis bi te demuñ fay ko jiyaar yi loolu moom nu moo mel.
képp ku def loolu yaa ngi sàcca liggéeykat bi ak réew mi te saa yu jiyaar yi yëgee loolu bunti liggéeykaay bi dinañ fay lépp ba mut te yow doo am benn kayit bu jógee jiyaar yi di wone ne yaa ngi doon fay sa naam.
gis naa fu mu nekkee nii li ma def mooy dinaa bàyyi xel bu baax su weer deetee ma dinaa ñëw seet ndax li ngeen ma dog dem ngeen fay ko jiyaar yi waaye tamit xam nga ne lii képp koo xam ne mu ngi mel ni man di liggéey nekk liggéeykat comme man war naa mën a seet si man di def comme nu maa def.
xibaar bi nag mu nga bàyyeekoo ca Gambia Revenue Authority képp ku bugg a am lu la leer ci lii nga xam ne mooy seen pay tax sa warugar la nag pour nga dem ci GRA office bu la gën a jegeñ Gambia Revenue Authority mooy place bi ngeen a fayee seen naamu yi pour jëm kanami réew mi.
Our work, we have to partner and network. I think we talked about networking and partnering. We cannot do it alone. That is why we have partnered with civil society. In fact, we help them develop what is called the Civil Society Platform Forum, because sometimes civil society, they are in areas that we are not. And some of the information that we even get, it's usually triggered by them giving us information, because they are our natural ally, civil society. Our donor partners are also our natural ally, because we work together to change things. The government is also our natural ally. The government also wants things to work. Let me tell you, for example, which governments want chaos? No government. So even if they need us to assist in solving, for example, public order issues, we will oblige ourselves, because we're here to help everybody solve the problem. If the ultimate end goal is to make sure that we have a culture of rule of law, the National Human Rights Commission will be there. That's why we talk to everybody. We're everybody's friend and we're everybody's enemy. Because sometimes this group will like us, sometimes that group will not like us. But that is the nature of our independence. The body that has a supervisory role on us is the National Assembly. So every year, and which we did a couple of months ago, we're supposed to go back to the National Assembly and give a report, a situational analysis report of our activities during the preceding year, what we did, what we found out, what recommendations have we made to improve human rights. It's both a narrative and also a financial, because we also do receive some funding from government and we are accountable. But the National Assembly is the only body. We are not part of any line ministry. We are independent of, but that's the nature in which National Human Rights Commissions are set up. We are not part of the Ministry of Justice. We are the watchdog. We are the institution which is here to make sure that human rights is implemented. We advise the government. We are not civil society. We are not government. We are there to uphold the rights of everybody. And in so doing, we held the government into account. We held others also into account. That is why the National Assembly is the only body that actually supervises us, if I may use that. But of course, not only at the level of, that's at the national level. All national human rights institutions are also, they have to meet certain standards and they have accreditation. For example, we're a full member of what we call the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions. And also, there is another body at the UN level, it's called the GANRI. It's the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, which gives accreditation to all the national human rights bodies all over the world. So this is the way National Human Rights Commissions are set up. As a National Human Rights Commission, our mandate is to make sure there is no discrimination. But how do you do these things? You need a multi-pronged approach. Not only law, but awareness raising. But this is why we also said at our level, we even engage, we will start engaging the schools. So even if the old ones, you can never change them, but the children will socialize at the level of the schools. Why don't we start engaging them at the level of the schools? At the level of university. But basic, let's start. So show them movies about human rights. Let them understand the issues. And children do that. I'm sure you have children. I have children. When you say things and they tell you, no, mommy, or daddy, smoking is not good. Where do they get it from? Because now, so we just feel that these things you need immediate, medium, and long-term intervention. But if we do not start it now, everybody will sweep it under the carpet. Some of these issues can be so sensitive that many people will just leave it out. But if it is our country, if we're going to have a new Gambia, These are the issues we need to look at. Caste system, violence against women, sexual harassment, rights of children. These are issues we need to. We have to look for our environment so that our generation that is coming will have a sustainable Gambia. These are things that we need to tackle. Human beings, we all have our petty biases. We live in communities. Sometimes we are more comfortable with our own kind, with the people who speak the same language as we speak, with people who come from the same region as we do. These things are there. But should it come to the level where we discriminate or whether we deprive others because they don't belong to that particular tribe? No, it shouldn't. And again, I will say something. Politicians. The National Human Rights Commission will, as I told you, we are anti-discrimination. We will all forms of discrimination. Anybody. And when I say anybody, people say it should not be. And it's really amazing why, when you talk about discrimination, people choose which one. You can see people who are pro non-discrimination when it comes to one particular aspect, but when it comes to tribe, they change the goalpost. When it comes to religion, they change the goalpost. All these things happen. So tribe, but getting back to your issue, tribe is something that we all need to address. And I will say that the political parties must drum it on their supporters. It should be, these are the people who have the following. Religious leaders, they have the pulpit. You know, they have sermons. They have the khutbah. They have the pulpit at the churches. It's a multi-pronged approach. The National Human Rights Commission will do its bits in our awareness raising, in our campaign, but it should be bigger than that. And we should be honest about these things.
As a citizen, if you suspect anybody having, these COVID-19 symptoms, the things that you need to do, first of all, is to call 1025. And then when you call 1025, you listen to their advice, and then they will be able to tell you exactly what next step to take. If you are to, call, they are to come there, they will tell you, so that you tell them the location, and then they will make arrangements to come there. If the person can also be moved to a facility where he or she can be tested, then that also can be arranged. But first of all, before you do anything, because you're suspecting somebody with COVID-19 symptoms or signs, don't touch the person. Make sure you call 1025, and then they will give you the real directives that will prevent you and also help the victim who you have suspected. Because suspecting someone doesn't mean the guy or the person actually have the disease. But because seeing one or two signs might lead you to suspect, which might not actually mean that the virus is within the person. The virus can only be noticed from a person or from a suspect when they are tested, and this test is the PCR test, which we do normally in the Gambia, and then they are found to be positive after the test. That's the only time you can say somebody is having COVID-19. But somebody who manifests all the symptoms can only be termed, as you said, a suspect.
Children, are you happy? Yeah! Clap for yourself. Clap for yourself. Are you clapping a big one? Another one. Another bigger one. All right, thank you. So we will dismiss for today, okay? And go and prepare for your exam for tomorrow, right? Yeah! You have to prepare. How many people want to take first in your class? Everybody wants to take first. All right. Even me, I want to take first in my class. Uncle, what about you in your class? Hey, Auntie, in your class, you take first. All right. Clap for yourself as you're going home. My name is Reverend Dr. Deborah Nancy Paul.
My name is Khadijatu Jahumpa and I'm in grade 5. My school's name is Josephine and our principal's name is Nancy Paul. I like her and I call her Madam because she is lovely and friendly.
I'm a teacher at Reverend Josephine Banjo. I started working with this organization for the past 2 academic sessions now, where I work with Reverend Nancy as the principal of the school. I love working with her because she's a very flexible woman and she's a woman of vision.
Vice principal of Josephine, and we have been working. I've been working with Mrs. Nancy Paul for the past 1 year. I think we have been together for the past 1 year, and working with her, I think we have that's a good thing to work with her. Knowing her is a good thing, and working with her also is another good thing.
I'm a missionary in the Gambia. I've been a missionary to many African countries.
For what he has been doing so far since he was appointed, she was appointed as the principal of this school, I believe she's going to lead this school to a greater height, and the school will be recognized as a very good school, a very good senior secondary school in the Gambia.
When I came to the Gambia, I saw the same need that I saw in Rwanda. I said, okay, I'm asked to stay and plant, so I will stay, I will take a job. The very first place that I got a job was this same school, Reverend Josephine Memorial School in 2014. I got a job here as a teacher. I taught English language, literature in English and accounting, okay, at all levels. In fact, starting from grade 7 to grade 12. So sometimes it used to be, I think, 40-something periods, but I was excited to do it. I didn't even feel tired. So after some time, I had to leave Reverend Josephine. You might want to ask, why did I leave? I left because when I left Nigeria 2013, I was told that my bank was here, UBA. So my account officer told me our bank was here. So, and I came with the cash that I could carry. And that cash was exhausted when we entered 2014. So I needed to go to bank to withdraw money. UBA was not here. I was told it was on Kairaba. We went, it wasn't there. They told me every street in the Gambia, the way they said the bank would have been. I took town trip, even spend the money I had on me, took town trip going up to Banjul. Somebody told me it's near CBG, Central Bank of the Gambia. So I came there. Behold, UBA was not here. And my money was exhausted. So I looked at the money I was given here that time. Because when I had my cash on me, I did not mind how much I was paid here from the school. I did not mind. The money I was given for me was a bonus for my charity work. Because here I help people. By that time, I was living at, after Bantaba, down after Bantaba, Farakono. I was living at Farakono. And if you know that environment, you see that there are so many needy people. And what I collected from the school, I used to help the men, the women, and the children in the Farakono environment. If you go there and just mention this woman, they will tell you, oh, they know her at Farakono. So when the cash at hand that I brought finished, and I looked at the bank was not there, and the money that I was paid would not even pay my house rent at that place and remain for my children and other people. So I decided to change job. That was how I came to Apple Tree International.
Although there is no way you can work that will not have a dispute, the dispute does not affect our work relationship. And also the dispute does not, it's it's not something like we have to worry just of the work.
why I enter into teaching business was to be able to contribute. Not to just put my certificates in the boxes and then do ministry work, teach only in the church, and when you finish, you go home and relax. So I wanted to contribute to impact knowledge into the lives of children, youth, men and women in this country, because I know that I have it in me to be able to share.
She's lovely and she disciplines us very well and tells us the right things to do.
On her own, she's a good person, and she has been carrying all the staff and students along. She has passion. She's a mother that believes that even when the board asks her to tell students that have not paid school to go home, but she still have the compassion to have mercy on them and say, okay, because they don't, because maybe pay doesn't have money now because of the corona issue, let them stay before. She very tight for her to send students home for school fees.
Well, what I have to tell all the women out there is that, my sister, just be yourself. Be yourself. Trust in yourself. Trust God. If you have a vision and a passion, follow it. Work on it. Ask God to help you, the grace of God. You know, be focused, be tenacious. Hold on to it. Be ready to use your hands to do something. Be ready to have a positive mind. A positive thinking about everything. Don't believe that anything is difficult. Don't believe that anything is impossible. Don't say because the other person tried and failed, so you will not succeed. Believe you will always succeed, even when others fail. Because for me, I believe that I always tell myself, even when every other person tries something and fail, that I will try it and I will succeed. I am here in Reverend Jesse Fire School today, doing the bit that God and the board, the able board of this school, have placed in my hands to do. So I am trying my very, very best. So try your best, put up your best in everything you do. Look at the people beside you, the people behind you, the people in front of you. Look at them and try to copy the good things that you can copy from them. But above God, above all, look unto God. Trust in God.